I mean, it was a happy place. I must have been about 17, 18 when the men came down and told all of us that they were going to tear down all the buildings in the lower part of Homestead. We were shocked, and we begged them, don't take our place.
In 1940, with war raging in Europe, President Franklin D. Roosevelt created the Defense Plant Corporation to spur America's reluctant industry into the war effort. 1 year later, officials of the DPC selected the Homestead Steelworks for extensive expansion. Although promising more than $75 million in new mills, the DPC's plans for Homestead came at a considerable price. To make way for steel, the government ordered the evacuation of more than 8,000 residents from an area it considered a slum. The demolition of Lower Homestead leveled 2,000 homes, 11 churches, 2 convents, 5 schools, and countless groceries and confectionaries. Along with their belongings, the residents of the ward took their memories.
Where I lived at, there was Irish, English, Scotch. There was Croatians, Slavish people, Hungarians, Lithuanians. I mean, it was a melting pot.
They were jolly times. As I've said so many times, I characterized down below the tracks as people being a lot happier with a lot less.
In those days, even though people rented, they stayed put, you know, so you had the same friends like almost all your childhood life.
I remember we had wide streets and paved alleys and 5 ballparks.
Second Avenue Playground, what I remember is a lot of good mush ball and softball games, and I used to play with a 14-inch mush ball.
That is at the entrance of First Ward School on 4th Avenue in Homestead. It's a 6th grade.
Well, my dad would open up at 6 o'clock in the morning. This was to catch the guys going in the mill to the hole in the wall, which I'm sure you're familiar with, because they wanted a cake for the lunch or this or that, so forth. And everything was open, to my best recollection, at 6 o'clock in the morning, because the town was moving. Everybody was going into the mill to work.
When the men would come out of work from the hole in the wall, there always managed somehow to be a tin can on the street on City Farm Lane. And these men would make a dash for that tin can. And it was like playing hockey. They played hockey with that tin can all the way up City Farm Lane till they got to 8th Avenue. And then they broke up and went on home.
But down there, you sang, and you were expected to entertain with your voice and your Slovak idiom and stuff like that. And everybody played cards. The Slovaks call it a game of filka.
There were a lot of gypsies down there. To this day, I have a great love for Hungarian gypsy music. And most of the weddings usually had gypsies playing. They were very prevalent.
They were known as gypsies. When they had a funeral, they used to carry the body in a parade and procession down into the St. Anne's Church where they generally belonged. And they were playing their mournful violins and so forth.
It's a beautiful church. It was imported from Italy, from what I understand, around the middle 20s. All marble, beautiful.
The Lithuanian Club was a club between the Turner Hall and the Sokol Hall. It was more or less of a ethnic club of all Lithuanian folks that belonged there would be able to come there and drink beer, play cards, just like any other club.
The Russian club and the Slovak club, that was very active. The Sokols were known for their gymnastics, and so was the Russian. It's not really Russian, it's Rusin.
And God loved the ward. He did.
Well, my parents were the first people to have sold their home. They were sorry. They were sorry, and they were confused because they thought they were set for the rest of their life.
Monsignor, he didn't want the people to sell their homes because he wanted the people to get a fair share for their homes. And in fact, he put in Bolton that wait till they get the price they wanted. Then the war came out, and the people figured they had to sell on kind of the war effort.
Well, Uncle John came home one day, and this was just before he died, and he had said to her, he said, you know, Mom, they're going to buy you out. She said, nobody's going to buy me out. And he said, well, I heard at the Burr Building that the feds are coming in, and they're going to buy property down here because of the mill expansion. She said, but you don't mean here. Boy, was she surprised.
Well, when you moved out, as soon as you moved out, then the records would come in and tear it down. Some took a little longer to move out, you know, by the time they found another place. And that's the way they worked. They'd go from one street to another as soon as someone moved out. And they told you could take anything out of the house you wanted, any plumbing or bathroom fixtures or anything like that, you're allowed to tear out and take with you.
But when the war broke out, they told us that we had to get out in a big hurry. About 3 days later, they provided a truck and manpower, and we were gone. The next day, the house was gone. The very next day.
You know, you found your own place, too. They didn't come in and say, oh, the 5 of you have been neighbors for 20 years, so we're going to put you together in the Homestead Project. They didn't do that. They didn't care where you went. Why, they got what they wanted. They got their property.
When they had to move, a lot of people, the older people, I know many of them died because of this reason. They couldn't stand being segregated from their neighborhoods.
Finally, I just had 2 children when I was informed that I would have to leave because they were going to demolish our school. But it was very interesting at this time because we had very large windows, and we would look out the windows all around and watch all these men tearing down the houses.
All around us, the homes were empty and windows knocked down, and some of the homes were demolished. And this one day we were outside, a couple of us, and some men came up to us and asked us what we were doing there. And he says, we live here. He said, what do you mean you live here? Well, sure, I live over there. And he says, well, we thought everybody was gone. He says, it looks like you people were forgotten.
If you look at the property now, today, was it really necessary? You know? I guess at that time it was. Yeah, at that time it was, you know, the war and that they needed the facilities. But actually, some people feel that there may be, in years to come, they may just decide to build down there again.
Yeah, one last thing. I have a good idea where my house was, and I hope they don't tear down all the furnaces, but I'm sure a great deal will be torn down. And I'm going to walk back there just as well as all these other people you talk to intend to walk there too. And I know that when I hit that spot, I will not need a surveyor's transit to tell me where the house was. I think my heart will tell me at that moment that I'm standing right there on the house site.
He goes, Aza se, paza niki samaketa, la 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 la. I translate in pretty blue-eyed miss, full of charm and happiness, I'd like to give you a big kiss.
Che piace l'uomo